name is Carrie Braggs, and welcome to this episode of Let's Talk, Let's Think, where we will be answering the question today: if there's no watchmaker, can there be a phone maker? Once again, that question: if there's no watchmaker, can there be a phone maker? And I know you might be thinking to yourself, what does a watchmaker and a phone maker have to do with one another? And so let's just talk about it. When you look at things in the world, there's always been a conversation going on behind the scenes where for intelligent design, meaning that there was an intelligent design behind how the world is put together, all of the ecosystems, all of the layout of the food chain, and how everything works and ties together within nature and within the solar systems. So there's always been the question, and so it's always been asked, if you found this huge watch, and it was put together, and you know how a watch looks. A watch is made up of a lot of very small parts, and they all have to come together and work together on one accord. All of the cogs and springs and screws and everything has to work together for that watch to be able to work. And so there's always been the discussion, debate, argument going on behind the scene, whichever one you want to call it, to where if you saw this watch, wouldn't you assume that there was a watchmaker? Because something so complex could not just come together. It would not just be this complicated watch put together to where you just see it and say, that's just something that came together. The pieces were just out there in the atmosphere, and these pieces came together and they made this complicated watch that works and tells time and was set at the right time and was wound up, and all these different things that go along with a watch. And so those on the other side of the debate say there is no watchmaker, that these things just can come together. Because when you look at origins, there is the Big Bang theory leading to evolution that explains where the human race and everything else came from. And there are those who say that there was no intelligent design behind it. Now, we in the Christian community, we know and we speak the fact that everything was put together and created by God, that He is the intelligent design behind everything in the solar systems, on earth, and just of everything. Now, this is what we believe as Christians. Now, even if you are not a Christian, then you should still be able to look at nature and how everything ties together, and where if the earth was off its axis just a little bit, or the sun was a little bit closer, and all these different things that science teaches, that if these things were off just a little bit, that the earth would burn up and things like that, and it would cause just catastrophes all over the world. And so even if you don't believe that it was God that created all of these things, you should still be able to see that there is intelligent design behind all of these things, where the sun was placed at just the right distance and the earth was placed at just the right place, and it spins on its axis at just the right speed to keep things from freezing or burning up, or to keep catastrophes from happening. And so when you look at these things, once again, whether you're a Christian or not, you should be able to see these things. But many will still say with the Big Bang Theory, there was an explosion and everything just leapt into existence, and that just put everything into place within the universe. And you just have to ask yourself, as complicated as things are, how did that just happen? But before we talk about how that happened, we would have to answer the question of what caused the Big Bang. Because remember, there always has to be a cause and effect. If I fall, it's because I tripped over something. So I didn't just stand in one spot and fall over. Something caused me to fall. If I'm pouring a glass of milk and I knock the glass on the floor, the glass didn't just jump off of the table. It's because I bumped it. So there's always the cause and effect factor that is in place. So everything has to be caused. There has to be a cause and there has to be an effect of the cause. So for a Big Bang to happen, something had to happen to cause that Big Bang. And so what was that caused the Big Bang? And then question 2 is, where did all these things come from? If there was nothing, we all know that something can come out of nothing. That doesn't happen. You can just not reach into nothingness in the air and grab yourself a candy bar or grab yourself a TV remote control. There's nothing here. That's just air. So how is it that out of nothing came something? From a Big Bang, but what caused it? I know, kind of confusing, right? So to me, that says that sometimes people go a long way to try to prove a point because they don't want to admit to something. Whether you admit that God made these things or not, atheist, agnostic, whatever you are, you should still be able to say, no, if there's a watch, there's a watchmaker. Because a watch, something that complicated, cannot just make itself. And so that leads me to the phone maker. If there is no watchmaker, there couldn't possibly be a phone maker. Could there? I mean, I'm just asking a simple question. Remember, we're just talking about it, we're just thinking about it, and we're just trying to be honest about it. Now, when I look at the cell phones, everybody, when you think of the iPhone, everybody thinks of Steve Jobs because he revolutionized the phone market. And so how do you think everybody would feel in the tech industry if people came out and said, wow, this is awesome that this phone just appeared out of nowhere and that this phone does all of these awesome things. It has a computer on it. You can talk to Siri. You can do all of these things, and that's just awesome that it just randomly happened. That this phone just randomly made itself. That this phone just randomly does all of these wonderful things. It has all of these wonderful apps to be able to do all of these different things. And everybody says, no, Steve Jobs did that. And you say, no, I don't know what you're talking about. There's no phone maker. This thing, I just found it. This thing just showed up at the Apple store. This thing just showed up at, Sprint or Verizon. I just walked in and this thing just appeared. And I have this awesome phone, but there is no phone maker. Everybody would be beyond upset. How dare you not give him credit for his creation and his design and what he has done? Exactly. So please explain to me how it is you will not give credit to the intelligent designer of the solar system and of the world. Because last time I checked, now don't get upset with me, I think the solar system and the world and how things are put together are a lot bigger than the phone maker. They're a lot bigger than that. But we have people who will not credit the intelligent designer, whether you acknowledge God specifically, the God of Christianity, whether you acknowledge him specifically or not, you know just by looking at it and how things are put into place that this did not just happen by chance. But you can say all of this about life as we know it to be from creation till now, and you can say, nope, no intelligent design. But you will get upset and be ready to fight if someone says that Steve Jobs did not create the Apple phone and that it took in his intelligent design within the tech world to create this cell phone. So I think that's a very powerful argument. That's a very powerful thought to have a discussion about, and just be honest with yourself about what's what. Because I truly feel that if you could sit here and fight tooth and nail and defend him with the iPhone, that didn't just happen, and he created that from his mind, and he put in all the work and the complicated pieces and made it do what it does. If you can argue that fact and stand on it, then I think you have to acknowledge if there's a phone maker, there had to be a watchmaker first. So I just laid the information out there on both sides for the watchmaker and for the phone maker. And so now you take what was discussed here and you think about it. And you maybe sit down with someone and talk about it. But at the end of the day, I think it's a very solid argument, and it does take some thinking about it to really come up with an honest conclusion. So I'll leave you with those thoughts today on Let's Talk About It. Let's think about it. And remember, always keep thinking and always keep talking. You have a good evening.